Bomb Hole.
Bomb Hole Podcast.
It's going to be very hot. It's going to be very uncomfortable for everybody.
The Bomb Hole.
We're gonna slide down them big hills, you know what I mean, on the big, nice burgundy snowboard.
Okay, here we go again. We are back at the Bomb Hole, which is presented by Pub Beer and Liquid Death. Now, Stony Buds, how are we doing, my dog?
So good, my dog.
Always love hearing that. Now, to my left, we have the most decorated X Games real snow athlete ever to do it, known for hitting the biggest, most death-defying snowboard spots you've ever seen in the streets, still this day. And since his pro career, he's transferred into a real estate tycoon, just an overall solid family man. Dan Brisse, a.k.a. Breezeburger, how are we doing, my friend?
Gentlemen, so good. Grateful to be here.
God, it's good. It's good to connect with you. It's been a while. And briefly before we get into everything, Easton and I are wearing high visibility vests for the listeners and hard hats in honor of Blue Collar Brisse, the hardest working man in snowboarding. So we figured for the tribute to that, we want to look the part. You know,
It feels good.
It does feel good.
Feels real good.
You guys look real good.
So let's run it back. You are a Midwest native, and tell us about the town you grew up in and where you're from.
Yeah, I grew up in central Minnesota, small town, Richmond, Minnesota. Population was like 500 people, and grew up a pretty chill life of running around with my friends, and then all of a sudden found snowboarding at 12, and dude, the world changed at 12 years old.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. What hills did you grow up riding?
Yeah, we grew up.
Young age?
Yeah, Powder Ridge, a little a bump, 300 vertical feet. Never had any powder. It was just ice and man-made snow, but it was something for us to ride on, and it was all we needed at the time.
Mm-hmm. That's killer. Well, I kind of want to run it forward because we have so much to talk about in the show, and you have so many cool footnotes here. So, one thing I think that's cool is you did your whole career and you had no financial support at the beginning, and I would like you to kind of paint a picture of those struggles and how your early arc of your career started.
Yeah, definitely. I think that, looking back, it was the best thing that happened where my dad and mom didn't front the money, because when I was growing up in Minnesota, I had this dream to be this snowboarder.
Yep.
And it seemed so far away. We would watch these snowboarding videos, technical difficulties and Decade and True Life and Resistance. And, you knew it was possible, maybe, but it seems so far away. But, at the end of the day, my parents could have helped me financially, and they just said, Daniel, if you want to do it, go for it, but you got to figure it out. And I think that looking back helped put some grit on my shoulders, just to say, it's fucking going to be up to you, you know? And that I think sometimes is taken away from some other kids. And I, as a parent now with my kids, I'm trying to think about that when they want to do something. Can't just solve all the problems for them. You got to let them fight. You got to let them build that grit up and try to help them, figure it all out.
Totally. That's great advice.
They gave you the blessing to go do it, but you had to figure it out on your own.
Yeah, I went around and told everyone I want to be a pro snowboarder, being young and kind of naive, and I got a lot of pushback. A lot of the parents and teachers, were like, you're from Minnesota.
Good luck, bud.
Yeah, good luck with that. And
especially small town Minnesota.
Small town Minnesota, massive resistance. And then I went and told my parents, and my dad, I can still remember it. He just said, go for it, you can do it. And that piece right there, I just I fucking bit it. I'm like, he says I can do it, I can do it. And it changed my life.
Well, I want to fast forward to the just college area. I know that you were kind of pushed into college it wasn't what you wanted to do.
Yeah. I was dating this girl in high school, and her mom thought that college was the way to go. And I already had been trying to pursue this career, and there just hadn't been any motion yet. There hadn't been any sponsorship. So I went to college for one semester, and it ended up being the biggest mistake of my life, because when I got to Salt Lake City that year, I would move to Salt Lake City every winter. And, my summer I'd be back in Minnesota. I'd work for my dad. I'd work these odd jobs. I'd detassel corn. I'd fucking be doing landscaping. I'd save whatever I could. But I went to college for that half a year and got out late to Salt Lake City. And by the time I got to Salt Lake City, I felt behind everybody else that I normally moved out with. So I was out there pushing, trying to make it happen, trying to move quicker. And trying to move quick in snowboarding can be dangerous. And I ended up dislocating my kneecap at the rail gardens in the double set. I was doing a front board pretzel out, and I landed in a rut, and my kneecap just popped. And I was like 20, 21 years old. And at that time, dude, that was the end of that year for me. my season ended that year. And, you know, I ended up, instead of going back to Minnesota, I went to California to live with my brother because I didn't want to go back and get the banter from the wife's, you know, or sorry, girlfriend's mom and friends just being like, dude, reality check, you're 21. You just had an injury that ended your season. So going to California, and I ended up getting a night job working at Abercrombie and Fitch, folding clothes.
Slap some respect on that.
Yeah, respect.
Young Breezy at Abercrombie and Fitch. That's sick.
I got out there because when I went to California, that girl broke up with me, which was great, right? And I'm like, dude, I got to meet another girl, and I wanted some money, so I went to Abercrombie and Fitch to try to make some money and meet a girl.
Wow, that makes sense.
Yeah,
I can see the mindset there.
Put that together. Yeah, I was folding clothes at night, working overnight, and you know, I'd bike on the beach, and I'd spend all my time just rehabbing my knee, and you know, got through that year and ended up dating this chick that now is on the Chicago Medley. Her name's Tori DeVito. If you check her out, ended up meeting her there and had a good year, and it was fun. And you know, looking back, it was the biggest setback I had, but you know, fully committed to the career, so pulled through.
Well, that's an interesting timeline because you think about kids these days, they want to be pro when they're 14, 15, 16. You know, sometimes people are even washed up at age 21. Like you see that, you know, and here you are, you're 21, you're 22. You just had a career-ending injury before your career even started.
Yeah.
And that's killer to not give up and just say, I'm going to keep going and doing this.
Yeah, I think that was probably one of my best, you know, attributes was just the laser focus on making the career work, just being 100% committed. And I never, even when that happened and I was 21, I never doubted that I was still going to figure it out and make it work. It was just another setback. And there were so many setbacks along the way before I actually got paid that, you know, it just helps you build character, helps you become more of who you are, and helps you put that work ethic in that I think is so critical, especially, you know, in life now.
Yeah, totally. It's cool as we talk about some kind of snowboard stuff here. When you look at your career, you're known for being Dan Brisse, you know, the guy that jumped the crazy gaps, that hit the huge real snow spots. But when I'm thinking back at those early days, you know, you're an ATV. I remember you would show up at Super Park and hit the biggest jumps and always spin off the biggest jumps, and then you'd film those parts with Bald Eagle, and it was kind of like an ATV type of thing. And I sometimes feel like maybe you don't get enough credit for that side of you, and so it's just cool to think back on that early. Explain how you kind of got your foot in the door with those type of things.
Yeah, for sure, dude. Bald Eagle was massive. You know, Mike Tinas and Emmett Clocker are the dudes in central Minnesota, and yeah, definitely. And those guys putting together these videos year after year when we were young was our platform to try. You know, to put these video parts out and show the industry, even if it wasn't a massive amount of viewers, what we were able to do. And year after year, we would film video part after video part after video part with Bald Eagle Productions. And it was really the platform for us in central Minnesota to have a chance to try to blow up. And you know, after a bunch of years there, and I moved into Salt Lake City. I mean, I moved to Salt Lake City when I graduated from high school, and I worked jobs and filmed year after year. And for 4 years, nothing happened. I had injuries like I just talked about, and I mean, we filmed, but just you never had any sponsorship help. You know, you were coming up, but you weren't at the level yet where brands were like, "Fuck yeah, we're gonna pay this dude." You just weren't good enough. There wasn't enough behind you for them to say let's roll, and that was, you know, humbling for me. I thought I was gonna move to Salt Lake City and be a pro the next year. I swear to God, I did. And when I got out there and I started to see these other riders and I started to see the level they were at, I realized where I wasn't. I realized how far I needed to go yet. And I think that those 4 years of grinding made the appreciation that much better when it finally happened, you know. And another shout out to my good friend Mike Pettit. Mike Pettit Yeah, thank you. He had the foresight, and he's like, "Hey, dude, Breezy, you're good enough. You should go to the Aspen Open and you should compete." And I'm like, "Dude, I'd love to go, but I got to drive to Aspen. I got to, you know, pay for the gas, enter the fee, get the hotel room." And I'm like, "I can't do it." And he's like, "Fuck it, I'll pay for it. Let's go."
Really?
Yeah, dude. Yes.
Such a G.
Yeah, such a fucking G, dude. And he throws me in his car. We drive through the night and show up there the next morning. Enter. There's like 250 kids that enter. Anyone can enter. It's an open. And he covers my fee, I think. And I ride that day, and I luckily make finals. I think I finished like top 10. But, you know, there were a few kids that beat me. And that night I went back to the hotel room and I just visualized, you know, dude, this is what I wanted to do. This was the one thing. And came back the next day and won.
Yeah.
And,
Wow.
won that contest. And that was kind of like, that was really the launch. That was the beginning, I would say, and it won $2,500. Wasn't a lot, not a lot, but at the time it was fucking a lot. You
Yeah,
know,
it's a
like-
lot when you're working like medium or low income wage or whatever. What's it?
Yeah.
What's the word I'm looking for here?
When you're below the poverty line,
Yeah.
or whatever, you're not making
Minimum wage.
Minimum
Minimum wage is the word I'm looking for.
Going back to basically, earlier, I remember at this time you drove a Plymouth Breeze.
Plymouth Breeze.
Yeah, dude.
Dan Brisse and the Plymouth Breeze used to cruise.
Yeah,
right?
dude. Yeah.
Was there any correlation with Breezy and the Plymouth Breeze? It just happened.
No, I went to the dealership one day with my dad. I looked at the car. I had $5,000. The car was $5,000. I'm like, I'll take it. That was
Let's
it.
go.
Yeah, dude. Ripped that car for a lot of years. But yeah, once I got that first little bit of cash, I put it back in my career, and I ended up getting a call about a week later from Blue Montgomery. I heard whispers like Tina's called me or something. Mike, my buddies were like, Blue's gonna call you. He's gonna call you. And I remember thinking, cool, when's he going to call? And in a week then, it's not that long in business, but I feel like, is he actually going to call? And boom, he called one day. And he's like, hey, heard about the Aspen Open. You should come to Transworld Team Challenge. And that was the first real main event. We went to, I think it was in Tahoe, Team Challenge. We dressed up as a bunch of nuns, and we ended up not actually doing that well. Someone missed a crail grab, which we got kicked out, but ended up shooting with Nick Hamilton on a kicker. And I was like fucking blown away. I'm like, dude, I'm at an event shooting with Nick Hamilton. 2 weeks ago, I was trying to figure out my career. And then from there, I got the invite to go to Super Park. And that's kind of where, at the time, I was in my park game. I know that people remember me for my real snow and these big features, but the majority of my career was not those features. It was riding backcountry park, normal size features, right? And those big features just came to be kind of that moment where my career was at its peak, and it just kind of got a lot of publicity. But the majority of my career was spent, average snowboarding style.
And that's killer. And going back just to footnote, Blue Montgomery is the founder or owner of Capita Snowboards, for people that don't know. And so just to fill that little bit of information in, so that's where you got your start with Capita. Yeah. And the one thing that's really comes full circle with that is upon doing our research for the show, we had a meeting with a lot of the guys over at C3, and that we were on a big Zoom call because I originally was going to call Johan, and then everybody kind of came in, and it was awesome. And basically, he mentioned that you guys worked at the same Fridays on Foothill. And so he, founder of Capita, he worked at this Fridays when he was trying to make it on Foothill, and then years later, I'm sure you probably got a soft spot in his heart for that Fridays situation.
Yeah, man, a lot happened at Fridays there. I ended up meeting my wife there. I was bussing tables. It was my jobs in Salt Lake City. I worked at Blockbuster one year. I worked at Payway one year, bussing tables. I worked at Red Lobster as an alley fucking coordinator where I put the food together. It was brutal. My hands got burned, and all the cooks were like, quicker, faster, and my hands are getting burned. And then I worked at TGI Fridays one year, bussing tables and being a waiter. And those years were great years. Looking back, I'm so grateful for them, and so grateful for riding with the brands I got to ride with, and Clocker and Tina's and Blue. I mean, just looking back, I'm blown away at how it all came together. It just came together in a beautiful way.
Going back along these same lines, in the mentality you mentioned earlier briefly is that invest in yourself, right? And you look at a lot of people that, how do I do it? How do I make it? And I find from my perspective, a lot of people are sitting waiting around, waiting for the brand. Well, I can't do it. The brand didn't give me any money to do it. I can't do this. My brands don't support me, or I can't do it. And I love that until you get to that point, like, you just don't take no for an answer. You're like, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to eat peanut butter and jelly. Like, tell me about the peanut butter and jellies and all that. Yeah.
Dude, yeah, your point is incredible, Chris. Put in the wood first to get the fire, right?
Yeah.
Put in the effort. And, we sacrificed everything. Like, PBJ was literally breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And it was for two reasons. One, it was cheap, but two, it was quick. Like, I didn't have to spend time trying to cook. I told you guys earlier, I hate cooking. I'm not down with cooking. I love eating the food, and I love when people are good at cooking, but I just don't like doing it. It was literally peanut butter and jelly. I'd go to the store and grab like 5 loaves of bread, like 4, peanut butter and jellies and peanut butter and jelly. And dude, you're set for like a month. And, those are some things where those are some things where I think a lot of people wouldn't do, and it just comes down to how bad you want it. Really, at the end of the day, dude, it's purely about how bad you fucking want it, and you'll always know how bad you want it by what you're willing to do and what you're willing to give up. And you can gauge that based on your actions you're taking on a day-to-day basis.
God, that's such a common theme between people sit in that
Yeah.
chair. So many people when it's fascinating. It's fascinating to dissect how you came from where people are at and get to where they are now. I love it. I love these conversations. And what always comes up is the determining, and there's so many factors, and that's not, but one that is just always rises to the surface is the people that have the drive and the determination and that unwillingness to accept anything but what the goal is, for better or worse, are always the ones that seem to rise really high in their trade or their career.
Everyone we've talked to, they just are not going to back down. Whatever it takes, they're doing it.
Yep.
They're going to rise to the top.
The Tiger, relentless. Dude, I wanted snowboarding so bad I was willing to die for it. It sounds extreme, but I didn't give a fuck, dude. This was happening, period. That's it. And it was a grind, but when you got there, it was worth it.
True.
Okay, we're going to talk to you guys quickly about our new sponsor, Bubs Naturals. They are a collagen protein. That's a protein powder over that Buds has in his hands there. And they also make all kinds of other great products. Which ones you into, Buds?
I like the apple cider vinegar gummies, which are great for your gut health, and also the MCT oil that goes in your coffee.
Absolutely.
Replaces any dairy creamer, and put it in my coffee every morning.
Mm-hmm. And they make all kinds of products, health and nutrition based. They're awesome. Jeremy Jones, he broke both of his legs in an avalanche, and he works out with me. I see him drinking Bubs proteins after every single time. He drinks the collagen, mixes it up in a shake, and it's been a huge part of his recovery from breaking both of his legs. And I drink it after I work out, helps you recover. And, as we get older, we need to drink things like that if we want to be able to keep bored and if we want to be able to keep doing the things that we do. And you're supporting a great company. They're owned by Snowboarders. It goes to 10% of all profits go to charity. And then it's in honor of Bubs, a.k.a. Glenn, who was a Navy SEAL that lost his life, defending our country. So it's just all in all, we love being behind this company. It's awesome. If you head on over to bubsnaturals.com and use promo code BOMBHOLE, you will save 20% off. So head on over to bubsnaturals.com. And what code, Buds?
Bombhole, 20% off.
So I want to pick up where we left off here and kind of jump back into, you filmed for Bald Eagle, kind of more regional, great video, but it wasn't on the national scale of some of the big production companies. And then you got asked to film for Absinthe, correct?
Yeah. I actually did. I filmed for First Kiss and then Pirates, and then it came to Absinthe. Yeah, so Absinthe, I ended up filming 2 video parts. One was with Neverland and then Nowhere, Now Here. And I would say, for me, Nowhere was my favorite part I ever put out. And one I'm most proud of, and I thought was probably my strongest part.
Mm-hmm. And then that was, this is pre-Real Snow. So I remember one thing I want to run back to is like watching you film, and I'm not sure what video or era this was, but we were going up to Logan, Tony Grove, and there's a cheese wedge there, a big one, and you've seen in all the videos. And we went there in the spring, and you were putting up backside 1080s, and I just remember you battled that thing all day one day. Mm-hmm. And the next day, at the end of the day, you slipped the landing, and then you went back and you did it the next day. And that's it. Just me watching that, I was just like, this guy has more drive than anybody I've seen. It was, you just got beat up and then just got it,
Yeah, goddamn, if you just wouldn't get a trick and you wouldn't get that feeling of satisfaction, you had to go back. I just had to go back. I had to get to that point. And it was turned into more of like these battles where you just wanted to win, right? You just want to beat the feature. You want to get the trick. So, we started to do things that maybe even were a little frowned upon, like slipping a backcountry landing. I mean, is that really what we're out there for? In all honesty, no. But at that point, I'm like, I don't give a fuck. I just want to land this trick. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Well, and even hitting a spring jump, for people that aren't familiar, like landing in the corn snow of a spring jump isn't very inviting compared to a fresh, cold powder, that's like fun to jump into.
Yeah.
Like that's not a fun jump usually.
No, at that point you're just battling to get it because you're just angry, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And another thing that was, because I like talking about your backcountry stuff because you're so known for this other stuff, like make sure we shed some light on that. And dude, I remember you and Bjorn, I think it was you and Bjorn, but you would snowmobile out with a ton of stakes on the back of your snowmobile, the metal stakes, and then caution tape. and basically run like a freaking half mile, like, you know, however many 100-yard like horseshoe around the landing so snowmobilers wouldn't hit, right?
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. We would spend, you know, a day or two building these kickers, and these jumps were massive. You would bust your back, like 6 or 8 dudes, and you'd come back the next day and you'd have these guys who rip through the landing. And you'd have a 3-4 foot trench of sled neckers ripping your landing up. So we were like, dude, we got to do something to prevent that. So that was the goal. We'd bring some stakes out and rope it off, and it actually worked. You know, it kept our landings fresh, and we'd come out there and they'd be butter.
Sometimes it seems like it's almost inviting for them though when they see that to go nail it.
Really?
But I've seen Bjorn have some instances after that people went and ruined it, but most times it worked, right?
Yeah. Oh,
They put those trenches in and it turns into cement.
Yeah.
Basically ruins your day.
Yeah.
I've been on some of these builds too, and they're definitely like two-day builds, and he was building big jumps.
Yeah. Let's talk about the biggest build.
Oh, the biggest build.
Bin Laden.
Bin Laden. I have a photo of Bin Laden we'll put up while we're talking about it.
Yeah, that was we got into a trap, you know, like we didn't realize the size it was going to be. And by the time you put in 6 hours of work, you're not just going to quit and walk away. It's just not how we were, right?
Yeah.
So you just keep going, and you keep going, and you keep going. And then, you know, we're like, fuck it, let's just hit this thing and just see what happens. And if I remember right, Bjorn hit it first.
Yeah.
Bjorn, you know, props to Bjorn for hitting that thing first. And, he ended up, like, getting G'd out on the kicker, and he didn't make it. So we're like, well, back to building. So we're back to building, you know, for another 3-4 hours, because I'm like, dude, I'm not trying that. There's no way.
Compression was too gnarly.
Yeah, compression was too gnarly. And the one thing that I always had, I thought that was a good, you know, piece to get through these problems without getting hurt is just the work ethic. You know, going back to it, I didn't care if I had to add an extra 3-4 feet to the jump to make it work. I'd rather do that than get broke off. You know, in the times where you get broke off and you're sitting out for 6 months, that pain is so not comparable to just a little extra work to make the feature work. So I think that's probably part of the reason I was so focused on making sure the spots were legitimately set up. So you didn't have that possibility of saying, fuck, I rushed it. You know, I did that in the past, and I learned that lesson early on, and I was like, no more rushing anything ever. Spot's got to be perfect, otherwise I'm not sending it. So, I mean, you live by that as much as you could, but dude, yeah, that spot was gnarly.
It was like a 7-day build, something like that.
Yeah.
For like
one trick.
Yeah, for one
For
one
a
trick.
3-second
like,
back 180.
Yeah, it was like 3 tries and it was done.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't hit it again. I was like, what am I going to do on this thing? This thing's just too gnarly. And, you know, that's part of like going out and building a part, though. You don't know. You don't know how this jump's going to go. You do your best. You're like, yeah, it looks like we can make it. It's a 100-foot gap. We can make that. You know, there's a massive runway. Let's start. And one thing led to another, and it was a battle for, you know, the history books.
The jump was the size of a house. And during that 7-day period is when they pulled Bin Laden out of the cave, and that's why we named it Bin Laden.
Dude, that's Charlebois right there, dude. Charlebois always got the stuff. Was that Charlebois or was that you?
I don't know. Bob Plum was up there too.
Yeah.
I don't know.
There's a lot of banners.
A lot of banter bosses up there, so who knows where it all came from.
Yeah, Charlie Boy, I feel like he's definitely got good for coining a jump name.
He got sun poisoning up there. He was like up in a cave up there. Like he would still come up, even though he was like sick from sun poisoning. He'd come up and try to dig and then sit back in his little hut. Yeah, it was crazy.
Nuts.
That's also a good thing for people that are unfamiliar. Highlighting, you know, you see a video part, you see a clip go by that takes 3 seconds, and you don't know what goes into that 3-second clip.
Yeah, what it took to get that clip. I like what he was saying about building a spot though, because that's one thing I learned with Dan is you might go look at a feature and it's insane, and you're like, how is this rider going to do this? But then you build it and you build it right, and then you're like, oh, okay, this is possible. And I think that's one thing we did with Dan was always build everything correct.
Another thing, the photo on the wall, sorry to interrupt, the photo on the wall in there, and you had a great story about his process on how to get there, right?
Yeah. Well, on the one in my office.
The disconnected rails that are with that chokes out at the bottom there?
Yeah, he'll go to a spot. I mean, you should talk about your process a bit.
Yeah, we the spot that Eastone you're talking about, maybe you can throw a photo up for the listeners, but I mean I just looked at this spot right now and I remember hitting it, but dude, like right now my stomach starts to cringe thinking about jumping on that thing. But if I had to go back right now and it was life on the line, you got to figure this out, I'd go back to exactly what we did, and that's start with the bottom two. You know, work your way into these features. How do you just jump on a feature that's got broken handrails all the way down with, you know, bleachers that are razor sharp on both sides with cement walls at the end? Like, you just don't do that. If you want to have a career that lasts a long time, unless you are such a badass and you are so on your game, you might, but that's not my style. My style was really slow. And, having the right crew around that was willing to work with me on that stuff was critical. If I didn't have the right crew and they're like, dude, you just got to go for it, it just wouldn't have worked. So we'd start with the bottom 2 sets of rails and boom, boom. And then we move to the third one, boom, boom, boom. And then we're like, all right, let's go for it. And at that time, at least you're like, okay, all I got to do is add one more rail at the end and you have a way more likely chance of making it. I think it only took like 3-4 times.
Yeah, you usually get them quick after you did that process because you were so ready to actually do it.
You're kind of trained up. So, yeah, that was critical. We did that so many times on so many different spots just to work our way into it to stay healthy. Because at the end of the day, you got to stay healthy. You can't just, be a one-and-done kind of guy.
It's funny going out with younger crews. Fast forwarding to my future shooting, the one thing I would pass on is, you have to build a spot correctly.
Yeah.
And if you don't, you're going to get hurt.
Yeah.
So be smart.
Yeah. Yeah. And if it's a 20 stair handrail, you set it up and it's built right pretty quickly. So a 100% comes down to your spot selection and there's always critical spots where you're like, this could fuck me up.
Yeah.
These are 2 things. And if you see those and those, now you can start to build it to try to, prevent those catastrophes.
A little risk mitigation, as they might call it in corporate culture. So going back to that type of stuff, let's just jump right into X Games Real Snow, because that you were on the forefront of X Games Real Snow with Louis Parody. It didn't exist before. You guys didn't have there wasn't a formula, but snowboarding was getting, this street snowboarding specifically was getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And then all of a sudden there's this thing. It's like, you need a minute of footage, and we're going to judge it. You're going to win a bunch of money. You're going to get an X Games medal. And I think what that did is, instead of going saying, I need a film video part, it's like, I need a minute of footage, which is 10 clips maybe?
Yeah.
Give or take?
Yeah, about.
And so you're being very methodical about 10 bangers, instead of being like, I'm going to get a clip today, a clip tomorrow. And that process that you're describing is perfect for, okay, I'm going to invest in this spot because this one is a banger, and I'm going to take the necessary steps to get the A grade clip, right? Do you want to elaborate on that at all?
Yeah, I mean, that was exactly, when Real Snow came out, I felt like the contest was designed for me and for our writing style. I'm like, dude, this is like the best thing that could have ever happened at the best time. I just came out with this nowhere part, I believe, and we had a couple roof gaps already, and it just, I was fortunate to be invited in that first year. I mean, man, I felt so lucky, especially with the dudes that were in it that year. It was Louis, Nick, and myself, and then you had the heavyweights, Jeremy, JP, Seth, and I think that was it. Maybe there's just like 6 of us, and I mean, we would at that point, it's like all you needed is 8 hammers, 9 hammers. That's it. So instead of just being like, I'm going to get another shot, we have to pick the right feature. And sometimes it would take 2-3 days to get it done right. I started rolling around with a waiver release form, an insurance policy, and just walking up to these owners, sometimes these spots, and be like, hey, can we film here? This is what we're doing. It's for X Games. And they'd look at the policy and someone would be like, yeah, legit. And I'd sign it and we'd have access to be able to film. And that probably worked 50% of the time. It worked more than I thought it would. But that helped us be able to come in and just relax and just, do what we needed to do instead of rushing to try to get it all done. So, I mean, those spot selections were the most important, along with your crew, dude. The crew during Real Snow, it would either make you or break you. And I was so goddamn fortunate to have a good crew for those first 4. And, we had a little bit of challenge with the last one, but overall, I mean, the crew was just, killer. I had Killer on my team.
Let's give Randy a big old air horn.
Dude, that guy, he built out my trailer. He put together everything, and he was just kind of the front runner for spots. He rode too. He was damn good.
Ripper.
Yeah, Ripper. And he just, he was instrumental, and I wish I could have done more for him, but give him a lot of credit for being there.
Absolutely.
And, Chris Doralis too, and Bjorn Linus, like these dudes were everything.
Mm-hmm.
They were critical.
You had a solid crew.
Well, a couple things there you kind of quickly breezed over, no pun intended, but your mobile assault vehicle, going back to investing yourself, like, okay, this is street snowboarding is like on a big platform. We could potentially win some X Games medals here. I'm going to buy an enclosed trailer and basically make we could also call it like the no excuses whip,
Yeah.
Like just kind of like fill the thing with every tool you could ever need from street snowboarding. What kind of things do you have in there?
Shit, we had everything in there. I was so sick and tired of like water freezing up or not having a place for the winch or the shovels and shit being stolen. I'm just like, this is fucking such a joke. Like, this is what we do. Like, just get a trailer and put it all in one enclosed spot and make it legit. So we had ladders, we had winches, we had freaking gas, we had torches, we had racks of snowboards. We had bindings. We had bungees. We had shovels galore for everybody because no one could be like, oh, I don't got a shovel. Fuck that. We got shovels, dude. You know,
no excuses.
Yeah, no.
You had vests. For
Yeah.
everybody.
Oh yeah. Vests.
That's where the vests come from.
Yeah,
for the record here.
Yeah. You know
Like you don't have a vest, I got a vest
yeah,
for you.
right. It just helped us not have to get the boot, you know. I mean, you're rolling around with a skidster. We had skidster. We were like, dude, we can shovel our asses off for days, or we can just get a skidster and leverage the power and do like 10 dudes work in an hour. So we rolled with a skidster, and it had a little light we popped on it. We had the gear you guys are wearing. I don't know if I wore a hard hat too often, but we had we had the gear in it, and it allowed us to be in front of authority, and they didn't know. You know, I mean, you got a 15,000 pound machine on a public school,
So true.
on the grass, and you're doing shit that is straight up illegal. I mean, it's in good intention, right? I mean, I'm a good person. I'm not out to cause damage, but we're doing shit that's illegal, and that stuff really helped us just fly under the radar and get the job done.
Yeah, no one's questioning you when you're out there with that machine, huh?
No.
And the vest there's been some arguments over the years because I've been on a lot of street trips where people are like, dude, why are you wearing a vest? Vest is stupid, you know. Justin Meyer is cut from that sentiment. You'll never catch him wearing a vest. He's there's a lot of people that and I've personally experienced. It's like look the part. Oh, they're just like, oh, that guy's a construction worker.
Yeah.
He's he's shoveling.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yep.
And until they see the snowboard fly off the roof,
Yep.
you're just a construction worker.
Yeah,
It
no.
makes a lot of sense.
Gives you way more time.
Yeah, that's it. It's just to help you get the job done. You know, I mean, some guys would ride with it on. I never did. I wasn't a fan of that.
Yeah.
You know, it was just strictly to get to the point where you could ride.
There's another tool.
Yeah, just another thing to help you actually succeed. I mean, you got enough challenges already. You know, if there's a way you can fit in and get the spot set up with vests and your shit, it made it easier.
Now, I have a question. Out of all the photographers you shot with over the years, when it comes to moving snow, who do you think moved the most snow and least snow out of all of them? Just out of curiosity.
I mean, being total transparency, Andy and Easton didn't move a ton of snow. They did not. But dude,
Come on, dude. Bin Laden, that counts for a lot of moving,
yeah,
dude.
you talked, and it was. Dude, and I loved it. I'm not kidding, dude. I fucking loved it, dude. I loved when you came around.
You talked.
That's what he's good at.
See,
That's why
I
we're
remember
sitting in
it
this chair.
differently, dude. I remember if you were on his crew and you didn't shovel, dude, you get a vibe. You could feel the vibe.
Let's be clear. There were vibes for people who didn't qualify, but for dudes like Easton and Andy,
Yeah,
like,
we kind of got the pass.
these guys got the pass. That's just the way it was.
I didn't feel the vibe. I saw other people feel the vibe.
Yeah, you vibed. You got a vibe. I mean, dude, if you're there, put in the effort. If you're a unique photographer that we need there, you might get the slide.
Speaking with Andy yesterday, he said, my back pain mysteriously went away after I stopped shooting with Dan Brisse.
Oh, dude, that's bullshit. That is such bullshit. Dude, oh my gosh, that's good stuff. Yeah,
That's good stuff.
Yeah, that's
I
killer.
love that.
I don't know how to respond to that, dude. But yeah,
There was one.
response.
I've heard old wives' tales of a one build though that while we're on the subject of moving absurd amounts of snow, I heard that the 50 back 3 was 52 truckloads, pickup truckfuls of snow from the closeout rail that you did 50 back 3 on.
oh yeah, that.
I don't know
thing.
if that morphed, but I like the 52 truckloads. I hope it is because it's a fun thing to visualize.
Yeah, I mean, let's live with that number, but there's no way it's 52. there might have been 15 or 20, which felt like 52, but no. Yeah, that closeout in Duluth, you're talking, right?
I want to say it's 52 just for the because
Let's
it's
go
fun.
with 52.
I
just
like
for,
that number,
history's
dude.
sake.
It makes it sound like we were more badass than we were, or I guess I don't know, crazy. But yeah, no,
That was a sick clip. The 50 back 3 is huge.
The one in Duluth on the top of the hill there.
Top ropes.
I love that spot. Yeah, that was one of those spots where I rode out and it just felt good. You know, there's some of the spots you're at and you're like, fuck, that was cool, but it didn't feel like I thought it would. That one I rode out, I'm like, damn, did that feel nice?
That was big.
That was money.
Yeah.
That was a cool spot. That was one of those spots where I was tripping out. I remember, before you hit these spots, you sometimes, like, before you set it up one night, you go to bed and you come back the next day and you're laying in bed and you start tripping.
Oh, yeah.
I remember I called Blue that day. I'm like, Blue, I'm a little nervous. And he's like, dude, if you're nervous, fucking step down. Do not push it.
Yeah.
And we came back the next day and we kind of went back to the basics again. You're like, spot's set up right. You know, it's a huge ass drop. Yeah, you got to close out, and we started with the lower ropes, and you got that, and you're like, damn, dude, let's give it one shot, and you give it one shot. I think maybe Killer even went first, dude. Killer was gnarly.
Yeah,
and we worked our way into it, and man, once you got it, it just felt so good.
Yeah,
Once you see someone go first, you're like, all right.
Yeah, oh yeah, whoever's
It's
going
on.
first, dude. If you're going first, you got some balls.
I also going back to street snowboarding as well. You compare to like park riding. You show up, you hit the rail, and it's set up. The park crew sets it up for you. Shout out to park crews. Those guys are the unsung heroes of snowboarding. And so basically you just kind of trust the feature in front of you. Whereas I find that in snowboarding, street snowboarding specifically, I always had a similar process where you get familiar. You got to get familiar with your surroundings. You feel it out. Is this the right speed? Maybe I'll do a board slide and pop over to the outside or take it to the stairs to feel it out. And I think that process of getting familiar, at the end of the day, it's about confidence, right? You want to have confidence in going about things instead of jumping on terrified, legs shaking, all right, full committed. There is something cool to be said about the process of becoming comfortable with your surroundings.
Yeah, yeah, that takes time. That's experience, you know. I think as you come up from your beginning to being a pro dude, you found ways, like you're talking about, to get into these spots with keeping yourself healthy. You know, and that is experience and time. Takes experience.
Beautiful. Another thing we breezed over real quick also was talking about essentially walking in through the front door. Like you wanted to go to a spot. Everybody's like, oh, this is a Sunday spot. We're going to go to this building that has this roof or this rail on Sunday because it's closed on Sundays. And we're going to wait for nobody to be there. And then your mentality saying, I'm going to walk in through the front door and I'm just going to explain exactly what's happening. I'm going to say I'm filming for X Games, which has some type of weird draw and effect on people that changes it. And just be totally upfront and be like, hey, this is what we're doing. And it's just incredible how that worked, right?
Yeah, dude. I mean, you can look people in the eye and they start to get a sense of trust. Like, these are good people. You know, then they look online and they're like, I'm familiar with X Games. They see your name. They're like, fuck, this dude's standing here. Like, he's actually a legit dude. And ideally, you roll in on a Friday. And they're stoked because it's the end of the week. So you get them.
Psychology.
You get them in a good mood, and they're like, "Yeah, cool." If they say no on Friday, you come back Sunday anyways, and you're doing it. You know what I'm saying? So if you can set up, and you're not doing that at every spot, but the spots that you really want, you got to put a little thought process into how you're going to get it done.
Mm-hmm. That nose slide pretzel specifically in the mine, I was kind of thinking of. You know that big yellow rail that's suspended?
Oh yeah,
the nose slide 270 drop, like,
dude.
That was a crazy spot.
Gnarly, but like you're never going to get. You know, they give you permission to hit that, right?
Dude, so this spot it's the Granite company in Cold Spring, Minnesota, a mega $1 million company. And I'm really good friends with everybody in that town. And I'm really good friends with another guy who owns a big business right next door. And he's like, I'm telling you right now, you'll never get permission. And I'm like, fuck that, we're getting permission. I go in the front door. I know someone who works there. And we sit down, we have a meeting. By the end of it, they're like, good to go. That dude who, you know, I've known forever, he's just like, I don't know how you did it. And I think sometimes you just get lucky. You know, I think people just get a sense of, you know, this person's a good person and they're just here to, you know, do a good job. But what ended up actually happening is we filmed it. And then later I got a call from the guy. Once the owner of the Top Dog heard about it, he's like, you guys never should have approved that. So we got the right guy on the right day.
Yeah. Oh, really? So the real boss would have just shut you guys
Would have shut us down for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, think about from their perspective,
Yeah.
they're not really getting a whole lot out of that.
Yeah, what do they get out of it? What are you going to do for their business, you know?
Nothing.
Sure, you can slide this crane or whatever it was.
So this looks like the most death-defying, scary thing ever done on like a sketchy mine that is everything about this is sketchy, but yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. Were they all out there watching you?
No, you know, it was kind of quiet. They told us to come back on the weekend, and we run it pretty low key.
Sounds like you got the right guy.
Yeah, we did. We got the right guy, and I luckily had some dudes who could move a massive amount of snow because it was a crane that was like a 25, 30-foot drop, and you know there was no snow around anywhere, and Andy didn't have to shovel one load on that one because they hauled it all in for him. So, you know,
obviously, if you're from central Minnesota, you're gonna know some people that know how to move some heavy equipment or know how to do it yourself.
That's right. That's right. That's it.
So another thing too, when we were in the meeting with the C3 guys, I think this came up, but somebody was like, yeah, how do you find these spots? And the one that I believe you shot, we like to call the shot out of a cannon.
Yeah, the Canon.
Canon. Yeah. Holy shit.
How did you find that spot specifically?
Yeah, we were up in UP, Upper Peninsula, Michigan, renting a skidster. because we were coming into film.
Which is a bobcat, if
Bobcat.
people are unfamiliar, just to
Yep.
clarify.
That's right, a bobcat. And the owner of the company looks us up, and he's like, dude, this is epic. You know, some people, most of these people that had these machinery companies, these heavy machinery companies, thought snowboarding was rad. And they do a little research, and all of a sudden they're like your best friends. And they want to roll with you. They want to show you the city. They invite us into their house for like dinner. You know, like 6 of us are rolling into their home for dinner. And he's like, at dinner, he's like, hey, I got this thing in my back property. It's like 60 acres of field, and I want to show it to you. And he's like, I got sleds. It'll be fun. It snows deep. And honestly, I'm like, there's no fucking way there's going to be anything worth hitting out there. But I'm like, dude, snowmobiles, all the crew is stoked, like Killer and Krister. And they're like, dude, it'd be fun to sled. So I'm like, cool, let's just go snowmobiling and look at him, you know, entertain this thing. And we roll out there, and I'm looking at this thing when you show up, and I'm just like, what in the fuck is this thing? And how can we make it work? So, you know, it just kind of was pure luck, that one specifically.
And we really did have dinner at the guy's house after he got the shot. And they would bring us out soup and hot chocolate. And it was like a 7-day process waiting for the wind. And the wind would just haul through that
right.
Canon
Oh,
thing.
yeah.
Totally forgot about that.
Yeah, it would just like the wind just had a way. It would like, there's no way it could hit it because the wind just went through the tube and it would push you forward or back, whichever way it was going.
Dude, and then I don't know how it happened, but Krister ended up being the first guy to hit it. Krister Alice.
Yeah, Krister ended up
like,
doing
I'll
it.
go first. And we were standing up there looking down, and I had a pretty good amount of practice hitting cliffs in the backcountry.
Step down,
Yeah,
basically.
step down, and you got to go slower than you think. And he's like, I need to start there, and I need to go X speed. And he started doing test runs, and I'm like, dude, slow it down. You're going to go way too fast. He's like, no, I'm not. I got it. And he overshot that son of a bitch. And, dude, he luckily, you know, landed and rolled.
Yeah.
But, dude, he
cleared the hole.
It was like a 45-foot drop to pretty much flat.
Oh, my God.
And it was gnarly. It was really gnarly. But, yeah, once we cracked it, we hit it, you know, not a ton of times. We probably hit it 5-6 times each. The only way you could get up there was with the scissors lift. So it was like this huge process. The only way you could build a landing that was even close to that size was with like a loader. Like
front-end loader.
Yeah, not like a skidster, but like a loader. And, you know, they built it for us. The guy who was owned the company that had all the equipment, they were just like, yeah, we'll do whatever you need. I don't remember if I having paid the guy.
You had to bring snow up to the tube, too,
Yeah,
right?
that was the
With
other thing.
scissor.
That was the other thing. There was zero snow up in the pipe, up in the tube. So they bring out another machine, and they're like, oh, I'll just put a huge bucket on this, like, machine that has this massive arm. And they started just raising massive amounts of snow up, and we would shovel it out.
That's
Yeah.
insane.
We had so much equipment went
So
into
much
that.
equipment. I don't know. And I don't think it was any money.
Yeah, it didn't cost any money. The guy was just so excited. I think he gave you a discount on the Bobcat, too.
He gave it to us for free because we
for
made a little
free.
edit. Yeah, we made Justin Turkowski was like the master edit. He's like, hey, if we make an edit for you for like 5 minutes of us using this thing, which he's filming anyways, we get it for free. So pretty rare that we paid for it.
This is a young sharpening his teeth at wheeling and dealing. Right
Yeah,
here.
true, huh?
Full-
Those the early stages.
Full wheeling and dealing.
Yeah, you know, personality and just coming across as being a personable, you know, honest person, and you know your integrity, and you know people sense it.
Yeah,
That's true. I think so.
So we're gonna do a quick cut to our Patreon questions. These are submitted from our Patreon members that are a huge support to the show. And yeah, Buds, hit it. See what we got here.
Well, first, I just want to say thank you to all the Patreon members. And here's a question for Dan from Paul Kelly. You were the boss of large gaps and huge features. First, what inspired you to take your riding to these types of features in that level? Second, why do you think the mega features in the streets have died off?
First, it just kind of naturally evolved. You know, it wasn't like we set out to do it necessarily, but going back to it, I wanted my career to go so bad. I didn't care. You know, I just wanted it to go, and it took a while to really move it until you started to turn some heads and be unique. You know, you got to be unique in the snowboarding industry if you want to get paid and you want to be the real deal. So it kind of naturally just evolved that way. Why it's not around anymore? Number one, it's super dangerous. Number two, I think it takes kind of a unique mindset, and number three, I think snowboarding has, which is awesome, is that it's a little bit more of a a core group right now, and you know it seems to me, and I mean this might not be right, but this is my opinion of why it's gone back, down or in that direction. I shouldn't even say back or down, but just in that direction. It's just a little more core.
You know, I was thinking about this
Yeah, me too.
as well. And Buds, you have a take? I want to hear your take.
I have a take. I think a lot of people, because sometimes people talk shit on the stuff we were doing out there. Mm-hmm. And I think it's because they just didn't want to do it. They didn't want to have to be put in that position to do something that gnarly because it was so crazy. One, the work ethic not everyone has that. You know, they're snowboarders, they're stoners. They can't kind of put together what you put together. And then 2, like, man, there's pretty high risk. I mean, some of those gaps, the risk is death.
Yeah.
You mess like that last one in Duluth, man, you mess up.
Dude.
If you go in the pit, you're dead. There's no other way
no,
around
that's
it.
right. Yep.
People aren't snowboarding to be
Another
prepared to
footnote
die.
I'd like to add. That's a great point, and I think there's a lot of layers to that. And going back to the core aspect is a huge part. I think spot selection and trick and not having to rent equipment and kind of, you know, it all depends on your taste, your flavor, what you're into. And I think at the time I was just thinking about what fuels that, and obviously real snow fuels that, but also magazines were big back then, right? So if you think about a magazine, if you're going to hit a roof gap, you know, you're like, damn, I could maybe get a cover. I could, if this is a big spot, like we were kind of bred through people like Andy Wright and yourself. And it was like, oh, I got a big spot. Like, I know this is going to go in the magazine. And at the time there's photo incentive, and getting in the magazine is a huge deal. Getting a banger photo is a huge deal. Now, when you look, our magazine industry is really got the life sucked out of it. And the people don't value that photo in a magazine like they once did. Do you think that adds to it?
Chris, I think you nailed it on the head.
Yeah, that's good.
You know, I will say too, when you're coming up and there's influence from photographers, you're trying to please, you know. And I know when we roll up to a handrail and Andy wouldn't get out of the car and Easton would be like another handrail, you'd stop looking at handrails as much. Mm-hmm. And, you know, X Games did have an effect on that as well. You know, 50K is thrown in front of you and you haven't ever fucking made any money, or you're starting to maybe a little bit. So, you know, but yes, Chris, massively sway was from photographers and just something that kind of new at the time.
Yeah. 100%.
What's funny for me, though, is I could go out with Dan, get in building gap and be hyped, but then I can go out with Scotty Stevens or Rav, and their style would make, and their spot selection would make a different type of photo. That's just as exciting for me, you know?
Yep.
And so maybe some people looked at like, oh, I could do that or I could do that. I'm going to try to do this. What's Scotty Stevens doing?
I honestly was a little bit jealous always of that, in the sense that they could go to a spot that was so chill and, you know, have, you know, a shot in a magazine, and I'm not saying chill because damn, are they talented dudes.
Yeah.
And God, I love Stevens, like the man. But you know, you hear what was expected from my brands when I signed a contract was to have more of like this breezy style snowboarding, and that's what I was about to. I actually really did like it. You know, it was fun. It made me feel good, and when I got a clip. But I really admired that they could make anything work.
Yeah, and hit it 100 times.
That's
You
it.
can't hit your spots 100 times.
No, fuck no, dude. Yeah, it was incredible.
Well, there's also around this time too, going back to photographers, there is all these, there's only a few, we'll call them marquee photographers, where you shoot, you know, you're getting a photo in a magazine, right? And you want to be in the magazines naturally. And so we'd be on, you know, you'd be on your crew, right? And I'd be on my crew, which is Videograss or whoever else. And we'd be, you know, Andy would be bouncing from you guys to us, and we'd be shooting Eastone and Ole Gagnon and all these photographers. But we'd always like be, you know, you'd be filming for Real Snow. What did Breezy do on his trip? Like, you know, because it's always this big secret. It's Mission Impossible. Everything's on the hush. But I asked him, I'm like, Andy, why aren't you shooting with Breezy right now? And his response was, well, you can't eat steak every night for dinner.
Oh man.
That's the thing. When Dan called you, it was like, all right, let's do this, because he knew it was going to be crazy.
Buds even had a stand-in shoveler once for him.
That's true. T-Bird rolled to that gap at Brighton High.
Oh damn.
I swear that was 42 truckloads.
That was a lot. That was a lot, dude.
And
yeah.
we had to drive them in through the stadium because we couldn't get snow right there.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And then you guys pretty much cleared the landing anyways.
Austin Sweeten was there in the street
Sweeten.
still.
Yeah.
Doing street stuff. Yep.
That was a fun gap.
At one point, there was even an Instagram I remember back in the day that was Breezy Spots. Did you ever see that?
Probably still up.
I
did
see it.
I saw the hashtag. I looked because I was like, and it's just literally ridiculous rails on top of roofs. They're like 5 stories high. It's so sick.
Yeah, what was your thoughts on that?
I remember when it came out, I was like, who the fuck is this? And I still don't know who it is. And do you
Fire
guys
or
know who it
something.
is?
I don't
No,
know.
I have no idea.
No one's ever messed up.
If anybody knows who it is, hit me up on Instagram. I'm just curious who it was. But as it came out, I started to like it more and more.
Me too.
Yeah. It was
I
cool.
it's sick that you embrace it, you know, and it's good. It's a form of flattery in some senses.
Well, it's just sick how it's such big, gnarly, crazy, undoable spots, and you're just like, that would be sick, though.
Yeah. Okay. Hell yeah.
so
we'd go on trips with Dan.
Oh, yeah, keep
go
going.
on trips with a lot of crews. It's like you're scoping street level. You're looking for spots. Go on a trip with Dan. It's like look up, because that would be a whole different spot.
You got to
selection.
look up.
Yeah, and dude, I'm saying it came from watching Jeremy and JP. You know, originally seeing them come from the Resistance to True Life, and you start seeing the features get bigger and bigger. It just felt like that was the way to continue to progress. You know, coming from Minnesota, those guys were the heroes.
Yeah, they were the next.
They were the top like ultra stars. So you're trying to emulate what they're doing, and as you go bigger, you just need bigger landings. Your knees can't handle it, right? You can't jump off a 30-foot building and land flat. It's just not going to work. So it just kind of seemed like it just evolved.
Yeah.
And I think the Quebec kids kept it going too.
Oh, yeah, Frank Bourgeois. I would say he picked up where you left off.
Yeah,
for sure. You
and
know?
there's even other kids still hitting big spots out there.
Oh yeah.
So one of your, we'll call them guys you went to war with. You know, one of the guys you did a lot of this gnarly stuff with is Bjorn Linus, and we have a great guest question from Bjorn.
Cool.
Hey, what's going on, Bombhole? Breezeburger. This is Bjorn, just calling in with a couple of quick questions. Breezy, remember that trip when we were up in Duluth filming for Real Street, and we were doing that roof gap, the parking garage one, where Randy was towing us in the pickup truck? After the session later that night, Randy got pretty emotional and broke down at the hotel room, and he basically told us that he was scared for our lives, that we were gonna die, and that, you know, if something went wrong, it was basically his fault because he was towing us with the truck. And I'm just curious, man, Randy was like one of your best friends, and what was that like? You know, did that kind of really hit home with you? Did it change your mentality moving forward about, you know, some of the stuff that you were doing? Love to hear more on that. Second question actually. Explain smelting. E-Stone, I know you know what this is as well, so love to hear that. All right, guys, thanks.
I can handle the first question. The second question, I'm going to need help. I remember the word, but I don't remember what it is exactly.
I can handle the second question.
All right.
Yeah, take part one first.
Yeah, part one, I do remember this, and I do remember Killer had like tears in his eyes. He thought it was because we had a little bit of a hiccup on one pull-in, and he thought I fucked up. He thought something happened, and it didn't. Nothing happened. I let go of the rope, and it was all good. And from what I remember, which is a decade ago almost now, you know, I just told him, I said, Killer, all you got to do is hit the gas, and you know, nothing else is on your shoulders. But from that on, I think that was our last gap. Really.
It was the last gap.
Yeah, at that point, it was like, why another one? You know, what's the reason? We already did like 6 or 7 of them, and this was kind of that unique one where it was super tall, and it wasn't that big. But yeah, Bjorn, Krister, and I all hit it, and yeah, you know, I don't really remember him other than trying to talk him down, and we kept going on.
I think the problem was he was on the roof and he only had a limited amount of space to drive, and it was icy.
That's right.
And so
That's right.
it was kind of gnarly for him. You know,
That's
if he
right.
went too fast, if he hit the ice,
That's right.
maybe the car's going to go off the edge. If he messes up, these guys are going to die if they don't make the gap. Wasn't very big though, but still, shit can happen.
Yeah. I remember that. I think what hit me more was afterwards. Again, talking to Blue. I talked to Blue a lot. I'm realizing as I'm thinking back, he was just like, "Dude, what's your setup like? What's your actual, you know, process look like when you guys are hitting these roof to roof gaps?" And I'm like, you know, we tie a rope to a truck and we put some sort of a pulley system right by the takeoff, and we go. And he's like, "Gosh, you guys might want to look into, you know, really perfecting that piece." And being that was our last one, we never really did. But good point. You know, I mean, this is the thing coming back to these roof gaps is they just kind of happened and you didn't plan them out. You know, the first roof gap we ever hit, we were filming another spot, and I think Andy or Stan Evans pointed it out, and we came back the next day and just sent it. You know, it was like, well, how are we going to get speed? Truck, rope, pulley system, go. And it was kind of done. And we never really put a ton of thought into it. And dude, knock on wood, everything went well, you know, and I'm looking back now, I mean, I'd never fucking do that shit ever again, obviously.
Yeah.
You know.
What if the rope broke, right?
Yeah. What if I caught my edge? What if the
million ways.
Dude, I mean, yeah, there's just, I mean, once you have my boy, you know, once I have my son, everything changed too. Mentally, it was just a total different game.
Well, that's a perfect transition. Oh, quick, before we hit that. Schmelting, we got to hit that.
Okay, so the movie Austin Powers, there's a character who talks about schmelting. I love gold. And we were in a schmelting town, actually. And that was the town where you brought your wife with you to conceive your first child.
That's right, dude.
And so we were on a rail trip, and it kept taking breaks, and Bjorn started calling it going schmelting.
That's right. Yeah,
And
that's
so-
right. Totally forgot about
Yeah,
this
we'd be
shit.
like, all right, we're gonna go hit a spot, and Dan's like, I need a half hour, 45 hour to go take a break.
That's right.
My girl's ovulating.
Oh shit, dude! Thanks for that question, Bjorn. Now that you bring that shit up, dude.
Zealand
Goddamn.
was conceived on
That's
that
right.
trip.
Houghton, Michigan. Zealand Breezy conceived.
And that was the first time that I'd ever experienced that with a rider. But you got to do life and X Games at the same time, huh, Dan?
Yeah, I guess so. You know, that's the reality of life.
How was that? Was your chick cool with that? Lady was.
All she cared about was having a kid, so it didn't matter. We had Zealand, and then we were trying to have our second, and it took like 3 years, and she was traveling all over the country. Like there become the time of the month, and she's not missing it. Like we're trying, so it doesn't matter where I am. She's just getting on a flight overnight, and boom, there she is for a couple of days, and head home. I mean,
Yeah, when it's
she's
when it's like you're trying to do this, it's go time.
Yeah, and after it doesn't work for years. You know, you turn into desperation.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a hard time getting our second child to come, and we ended up having to do in vitro fertilization finally. But there was a 3-year period where, while my career was going on, she was following me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
This is a great segue into a question from Blue Montgomery.
What's up, Bombhole? Blue Montgomery here. Breezy, my man, I got a semi-serious question for you. So during your time as a professional snowboarder, you were one of the gnarliest that's ever done it. And on multiple occasions, you put your life on the line in the pursuit of fun. And I bet not one time did you ever consider what your parents thought of the risks you were taking. So now that you're a parent, and you're the parent of a super talented, strong little kid in Zealand that rips his KTM motorcycle over the damn track, you know, I'm just curious, when you reflect on your pro snowboarding career and when you look at life through the lens of a dad, you know, how do you view the inherent risks that we take in action sports in the pursuit of fun?
Damn, that's a
All
damn.
right, guys. Thanks for having me on. Love y'all.
Yeah, that's a damn good question, Blue. It's challenging, in all honesty. Zealand's out there on his KTM 50, and the dude's got control of this bike, and he's flying through 30, 40, 50-foot jumps now. And I'm like, fucking, what did I do? This kid's 8 years old on a rocket bike. These bikes are gnarly. Like, they have power. You don't lean forward, they flip over on you, you know? And, you know, I think about it now more than ever. I was out there the other day watching him ride, and I'm like, man, this is so gnarly for me, because he'd sometimes endos, right? He hits his 50-foot jump, and he starts to sometimes go to his nose. And I'm like, Z, you got a habit there. You got to change that, or you're going to get fucked up. And I don't swear at him, but you know, it's definitely, you're going to get wrecked. You're going to get wadded. And it's challenging. It's very challenging. And I ask myself, like, is the risk to reward worth it? You know, and for my snowboarding career, it was for me, but I don't know. That's where I think the best I can do is show him it. And if he's not like eager and hungry to go, I'm not going to push it in any way, shape, or form. You know, if he's like, I just got to do this, Dad, I got to go, then we'll go. But I'm definitely not going to be like, dude, you should get out there and ride. You know, dirt biking, if you want to be serious at dirt biking, I'm learning real quickly, you got to push your kids, and they got to have everything like dialed in, and they ride, and it's damn serious. And I think Zealand's at a point where, you know, if he really wanted it, he could do well, potentially. I mean, who knows? You got a decade of like grinding before you'll get there. But if he doesn't show that, like, I want to do this and it's all I want to do, I'm just going to ride with him and have fun.
That's killer. In the other part of the question I wanted to highlight, have you ever talked to your parents about what they thought of you jumping the roof gaps?
Yeah, you know, my parents in the beginning, they didn't really know what we were doing. They just thought we were going to Powder Ridge riding laps. And then they started to see video parts. They never saw me snowboard unless it was a video part. They never went to one contest. Never ever even knew what we were doing. But by the time they knew what we were doing, I was so far along by that time, they didn't have any leverage. They weren't going to say, hey, you should be careful with that. I mean, they were, of course, my mom's scared, but they were the one who said, do what you love, follow your passion. What are they going to say? Don't do that, you know? So I think at the end of the day, my parents are pretty damn wise in the sense of just saying, just be as careful as you can and do what you got to do.
Mm-hmm. Going back to motocross talk, though, I love moto. Sorry to hijack the conversation real quick, but the thing that's cool, I've noticed if you look at the arc of a lot of the kids' careers that do well, it's the kids that are usually the first, the kids that are the top three at Loretta Lynn's that are pushed at the youngest ages, oftentimes, more often than not, are the ones that burn out. And if you look at Eli Tomac, or you look at a lot of these guys that have been massively successful in their career. They weren't necessarily the fastest kid in the minis, on the super minis. You know, they were kind of sure they maybe they made the main or things like that. But I think that that's a really healthy way to do it, because you see so many dads in moto, and I'm starting to see it in snowboarding. But fathers that or mothers for that matter, or any parental figure, doesn't matter the gender or anything like that, but pushing their kids, like, because it's what they want. It's not what the kids want.
Yep.
You know,
100%.
and it seems like you've been in those shoes. You're not trying to fulfill some unfulfilled ego that you never got and try to get your shine through your kid, right?
100%, dude. I've lived my dream, and whatever my kids want to do, I just hope that they find passion and go that direction. And whatever that is, let's roll. Honestly, if it was my way, he would just be doing it for fun with me. We'd golf a lot, we'd dirt bike a lot, and then he'd be in my real estate business. That'd be ideal. But, you know, it's up to him.
Okay, we're going to talk to you guys quickly about Liquid Death, and we're going to hit the Liquid Death spinning wheel of death.
Welcome to the Liquid Death.
Death, death, death. Spinning wheel of death.
So, Buds, what's one of the coolest things about Liquid Death?
Well, you know, you can drink it and still play sports.
Absolutely love. You know, we were talking about
You can chug
motocross. Motocross. I love chugging some Liquid Death, getting on my dirt bike. You don't want to do that with, you know, vodka, for example.
Yeah,
you
that's
know?
a good call.
The other thing I love, you can drink it in the chairlift lift lines. You know, people yell at you for having a beer. It looks like a beer. It's water. You know, and then one thing we haven't talked about yet with Liquid Death, Pat Moore works there.
Yeah,
Absolute
that's great.
snowboard legend, icon. So, you know, really, really cool brand. If you're interested in checking out some Liquid Death, head on over to liquiddeath.com/bombhole. You'll get yourself a couple koozies, and you're not contributing to all this plastic waste that is destroying our planet. You're crushing some can, which we appreciate here at the Bombholes, crushing can.
And murdering your thirst at the same time.
Exactly. So once again, head on over to liquiddeath.com/bombhole. And now we are going to get into the Liquid Death spinning wheel of death. Here we go.
One of my favorite segments right here.
Well, there's a lot of options on this one. We kind of made it spicy. So you don't know what it lands on. We're going to spin it. You spin it, and then we'll tell you what you land on.
Foot race
yes.
with Diesel.
Oh,
on
we
the
have a new
110.
one. This is so perfect because we were just talking about riding dirt bikes. And Dan earlier, I was briefing him on the episode. I said we might do a foot race, and he so confidently he said, "Yeah, it shouldn't be a problem. I'm going to mop you up." Or I don't know what verbs you said.
Yeah, I mean, you were talking about racing, foot racing, and I was like, there's no way Chris could beat me. But now when I'm looking at you, dude, you do look a little different than I thought. Like, I remember, like, you look a little more fit. You look a little more athletic.
This guy's been hitting the gym,
Yeah.
dude.
Yeah. Here's the deal. This is what we're gonna do. I'm gonna race him on the 110 dirt bike because I want to see how this thing does. It doesn't have a clutch. It's a small dirt bike, and then we should do a foot race after. We should do two. Okay, we're gonna take a quick break and cut, and then we'll insert the footage when we come back.
3, 2, 1, go! Breezy. 3, 2, 1! Oh! Dan wants to go again. 3, 2, 1, go! Oh!
So Breezy, why don't you explain to the people what just happened out there while we were racing?
Well, you know, being 37, I had to get a good warm up. I've raced in the past. My brother likes to race me randomly. He's 40, and whenever I do it, if I just go, I pull hammy. So a little warm up needed to happen first.
It's a pro tip.
That pro tip right there.
And then, yeah, smoked Granite like I thought I would. Right? I mean,
In the foot race.
Yeah.
We did, just to make him feel better, we did a foot race for the record.
there we go.
On the 110,
Got hammered.
What happened on the dirt bike race?
Yeah, you got lucky. At the
it
very
was
end.
a photo finish,
was
but
close.
Chris won.
Well, you pulled the holy out of the gate. You hole shotted me. And then right when I clicked into third gear, just bike positioning, body positioning, timing, RPMs, it was like watching Ricky Carmichael. It was really, I felt like just a complete, gate drop of beauty, you could call it,
Totally.
So yeah, I won two of the 110 races on the dirt bike and mopped the floor with them. And then
The first one was, I don't know. Tight.
I definitely won both. A win's a win.
A win's a win.
I give it to him. I feel like it was a win.
Yeah.
Legitimately.
Win's a win.
So we still, dude, real snow era. I know we've been talking about it quite a bit, but it's interesting. And along with Film for Real Snow, there's been some harsh times, you could say, right? Like it's just far as like we got this deadline, we got to do this crazy spot with all this crazy snow moval and everything else. What was the worst experience you ever had with a build, or your harshest experience during real snow?
I would say the worst, bust we've had, which is a standout in my mind of real snow, was the Denver feature. It was a roof gap, and we set it up. I mean, it was a jump that looked like kind of like a pyramid takeoff or Chad's Gap takeoff, where it took probably 50 truckloads, and this was a gap that was a death drop for sure, but you couldn't come up short or you wouldn't make it. But if you went too far, there was an overhang that you would have hit head on. And it was definitely the scariest feature that I would have ever hit as far as roof gaps go. And it's probably part of the reason we got busted, because when it came the day to hit it, Christmas Day, we set it up Christmas Eve, and we were out shoveling till 3 in the morning. That's no exaggeration. It was 3 in the morning. And we went home and slept for like 2 hours and got up back at first light because we wanted to try to get this done before anything would happen. And we get back there Christmas Day, and we start doing pull-ins, and I don't have the courage or confidence to send it. Something inside just saying, I got to go fast, but I can't go too fast. With all other roof gaps, it's just go fast. Just get over, and you're fine. Where at this one, you had to get over, but not too far. And I probably did 8 to 10 pull-ins, and I was scared, very scared. And finally, maybe it was a blessing. This dude rolls up in a truck. A cop even talked to us that morning, by the way. Cop talked to us. I was like, yeah, we got permission. Gave him a line of BS. He's like, sounds good. Good luck. He takes off. So I'm like, we got it. We're going to get this today. Somehow the dude hears about it. So the janitor cleaning Christmas morning, and he rolls up. And if you take a look at harsh times of real snow, you can see him pull in with his truck, and he drives over the jump and like high centers his vehicle on the jump and just gets out and just starts unleashing. You ruined my Christmas. And, that was it. We were done. He basically break it all down. And as I look back, the energy in the crew from that day of that much effort and getting defeated, it really affected a lot of the rest of real snow because of that one spot. But I'm probably, in all honesty, grateful it happened because I wasn't confident in it. And it could have been, a catastrophe. So at the end of the day, it was brutal, but maybe it was the best thing.
Do you think
that was a Denver hospital, huh?
It wasn't a hospital. It was just a Denver, office building.
I remember seeing it. I wasn't there. I think Dodds was there with you guys. Right?
Could have been. Yeah, it was like downtown in the background. Yeah, and it was a hot spot. It looked cool.
Question for you now, looking back with the perspective you have, not as heavily invested in snowboarding as you once were. Do you feel like this is an instance of like maybe we pushed it too far? It's Christmas. Like I was a little too much, or do you still kind of stand behind that heart of a work ethic?
Yeah, maybe a little of both. I think it was kind of borderline, like it's just too far. The drop, you're dead. You hit the wall going 40, you're likely toast. So it's like you have this massive area of risk in this very little area of success. Mm-hmm. And it's like, what are we doing here? And so, it was hard because it was a letdown, but at the same time, it might have been the best thing again.
Yep. Totally.
It could have saved your life. Huh?
Yeah.
So we've talked a ton about snowboarding. I kind of want to get into the business of snowboarding. Obviously, you've sharpened your teeth into this real estate thing that you're doing. That's awesome. But as you're doing it, it seems like you maybe learned by doing contracts, learned the business of snowboarding, got better at the business of snowboarding. And I know that you had one issue with a contract with a brand that I would love to kind of hear of on the bad side of the business of snowboarding.
Yeah, contracts are all about supply and demand. If you got multiple companies bidding on you, you're going to go up in value. And in this scenario, we had I was riding for Von Zipper, great brand, GT, incredible guy. Been with him for like 5 or 6 years, and all of a sudden Dye comes along, Dye Goggles. Bjorn is on the brand. He's talking about the brand, and I look up to Bjorn, and he's talking about the future of it, and he's like, you should take a look. And they put a 3-year deal on the table, working with Jameson Keegan. Shout out to Jameson Keegan. He helped me a lot with a lot of my contracts, but they put a 3-year deal on the table. That was 3 times what I was getting at Von Zipper, and it was enough where I was, with Bjorn being behind it, I wanted to pursue it. So I signed that contract and left Von Zipper. And GT told me the day I called him, he's like, I guarantee in 3 years that business will not be in business. I guarantee you. And I was like, I don't think you know what's going on. GT knows what's going on. I don't know what's going on. Yeah. So I signed the deal, and next week they're flying me out to do a photo shoot. They want to immediately, get you in the magazine and tell everyone that you're now on the brand. And when I'm flying out there, I'm already wondering, I'm like, God, I'm hesitant this is the right move. And when I get there, I meet the people who are behind the brand, and I'm like, these guys don't know snowboarding. I don't want to use the word kooks, but they just don't know. They're not in the scene, right? It's not like you're rolling up to Volcom or Capita and Union where these guys, this is what they did. This is where they're bred from. It's outsiders trying to come in. And I remember the photo shoot and just being like, this sucks so much. And I didn't believe in the brand. I didn't believe in the product. I didn't really like the product. I love that Bjorn was on it, and I love the pay. So we do that photo shoot, and boom, next month, every freaking magazine has my face with dye goggles. And I'm like, dude, they're paying. They pay me once or twice on time. And from that point on, a 36-month contract, they never paid on time. And they started to pay slower and slower and slower. And I wasn't okay with that. I signed a contract with an agreement of what I'm going to do. You guys live up to your end and fucking pay me, right? That's what the agreement is. So dude stops paying. Finally, we're probably in a month 15, and they're no longer, I can't get a hold of them. And I'm going to Jameson, and I'm like, hey, dude, what are we going to do here? This is a big problem. And he's like, maybe let's hire an attorney. So I went out and I found a lawyer. And I told him about the situation, shared my contract, and he's like, you got a case here, but I guarantee you I can win it. If they have any money, we'll get it. And I'm like, okay, what's the fee? And he said, 20% or whatever, I win you, and until then, you pay nothing. At this point, I'm thinking, I'm not going to get anything anyways. These guys are toast. So I hire him. We fly down to California, and we sit in there. It's the owner of Dye. It's me. It's my lawyer, and it's an arbitrator. And the arbitrator's sitting there. We're there for 2 hours, and we're going through each payment, each page of the contract, line by line by line. And the owner of the company is oblivious to what was going on. He starts giving me this line, like, I had to sell my plane, I had to take my kid out of private school, and this has been really hard for me. And I'm thinking the whole time, like, I don't really give a fuck. That was not what we agreed. You owe me the money, and we're going to go through with this. So for 2-3 hours, we go back and forth. At the end of it, the arbitrator looks at the owner, and he says, usually I need to take some time to figure this out, but you owe this guy this money, guaranteed. You're going to pay him, or we're going to, help you pay him. So that was the end of it. Dude ended up getting like a 40-50K payment from hiring this attorney, and it was a bummer though. It was a awakening a bit of just be careful who you do business with. And if I could go back, I just would have stayed with Von Zipper. Took a little less cash and been with a brand I was stoked on.
Mm-hmm.
And Dye came from the paintball industry.
That's right. Yeah.
And they probably still had the money. I mean, the guy to sell his plane. Wow. Who's got planes?
Who's got planes?
Well, that's a great moral. There's a great moral there. Just stick with the people you feel good about, and there's that kind of intuition when it comes to negotiating deals. You kind of know what's the right one and what's not, and obviously sometimes the money blinds you, but in there the feeling that you get where you're like, this is a good deal, this is a bad deal.
Yeah.
Right? Did you have that?
Yeah, I did. I had that fully. I was like, this is a good deal for the money, bad deal for the, the belief of the product. Just ride for brands you believe in and hold out for those brands and just be loyal to them, I think is probably the best thing you can do. I'm so grateful for the brands I was able to ride for: Volcom, Capita, Union, GoPro. I mean, these brands, and Rockstar was good to me too. I was good riding.
Now we got to talk Bisc. So we like to talk about Cheddar Bisc on this show, which is when we talk about money. And you're out of the game now, so I think it's all fair, right? It's all on limits. So I want to know what the most you made was off of real snow, and did you get a Rockstar bonus and all that stuff?
Yeah, I think real snow that first year was $50K payout, and then I had probably another 50 to 100 grand of incentives from brands.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then Rockstar had a bonus, but I didn't have Rockstar until like year 3.
Okay,
and their bonus I think was like 25K.
Yep,
it was a nice bonus.
Mm-hmm.
But
what I would like to know, total Bisc, the most that you made in a year.
Yeah, 500. Was kind of the
half a mil.
Millie, breezy.
Yeah, it was like 3-4 years of like 400 to 500K, and then
3 to 4 years of 400 to 500K.
Yeah, yep.
That's what we like to call
coming from the guy eating PB&Js.
Yeah.
See, you can see now why
PB&Js to secure in the bag.
Yeah, that is a secure the satchel type of situation.
Yeah, that's
right
$500,000 in a sprinter. We like to say.
Yeah, but what the harsh lesson I learned was once you start making that kind of money, you end up having a huge tax bill. And the tax bill was like a punch in the gut, you know, coming from central Minnesota, working odd jobs, making $3, $4, $5 a year. And now all of a sudden you got a 6-figure tax bill.
6 figures.
Yeah. 40, 50%, you know, self-employment tax. You got, I mean, taxes were gnarly. And so that was another thing I was like, there has to be a better way. There is no way that this is the only way. And I know the tax law, if you look at the tax law, it's deep, it's thick. And how do you figure this out as a snowboarder? I'm not going to fucking figure that out. So I got to start reading some books and try to figure that stuff out and find a way to learn the laws and allocate yourself differently to keep more of what you're making. Otherwise, you're working for 6 months for the government.
Did you figure that out?
Yeah, I did. I read a bunch of books. I started reading books left and right. I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I read a bunch
I've read those.
Yeah, I read Tax-Free Wealth by Tom Wheelwright, and I went and hired a CPA out of Arizona. The company's called Provision. And I fired my guy here in town because he's like, keep putting your money in IRAs, Breezy. Keep putting your money in IRAs, life insurance, 401k. And I was like, this isn't working. This is not working. So I fired that guy, hired somebody who was way more sophisticated, who could give me way better knowledge of what to do. And I started down that path 10 years ago. And that was the beginning of, you know, my real estate investing business.
Before we transition to that, I'd like to footnote, because I don't know if the general public knows how snowboarders get paid. So we are independent contractors, right? So you don't get health benefits. It's not like you get paid and a chunk of taxes is taken out. On a 1099, when you get paid, you are responsible for paying your own taxes off that. Do you want to elaborate on any of that?
Yeah, you just get it all.
Yeah.
You know, and you have to understand and be sophisticated enough to set the funds aside or understand what your tax liability is going to be based on your setup. And if you don't keep those funds and you go spend those at the end of the year, now you've got another massive payment and you owe it. So it's important. And this shit isn't taught in K through 12. This isn't told you.
No, it should be.
Yes, it should be.
Yeah.
It should be. And it's not. And if you don't get the information, you don't go seek it out, you can get into a very slippery spot. You know, a person who makes a ton of cash but doesn't know what to do with it is dangerous, very dangerous. You can get yourself into a shitty situation quickly. You know, so there's a lot more to know what to do. Making the money is one thing. You got to make the cash, and then you got to know what to do with it. It's almost more important what to do with it than making it. You know, they're equally important because you don't got anything. How do you do anything? But once you got it, what do you do?
And I know plenty of people who didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
And they're still paying, still figuring it out.
And if I had control or could influence more athletes that are making good money, I'm telling you, I can retire all of them by the time they get to the end of their career. If they have a good income and they're willing to live a little bit below their means, doesn't mean they have to, you know, live like they're broke, but don't spend everything you make and start buying assets. If you buy assets, you can retire after you're done being an athlete. Every single athlete, if you're making $300 to $500 a year or more, should retire when you're done and live a beautiful life.
Wow.
Yeah.
Great words of wisdom. So let's talk about this transition phase into your pro career's going for a long time. You said something about fatherhood was a turning point for you, right?
Yes, definitely. Yeah. Once Zealand was, 2-3 years old and I was traveling and I'd be leaving all the time, it started to change for me massively. I just, even 2, 3, 4 day trips, even coming here right now, I had to think about, I'm like, I got to take a day. I'm going to be gone another day. And, that wears on you enough where it's just not the same as it once was. And snowboarding turned into work. Dude, snowboarding was never work for me once. I never fucking worked hard. I just did what I loved. But now when you have to put that same effort in, now you start to see how much effort you're actually putting in. Melissa, my wife, would always be like, Dan, I just can't believe how hard you try. And I'm like, fuck, I don't feel like I'm doing anything. Mm-hmm. And then when that started to leave and you're like, I got to go to work, now you're like, holy shit, I'm busting my ass. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So that day, once Zealand came around, I was just like, it's just not the same. And I remember the spot. We were up in Fairbanks, Alaska. I had Melissa, my wife, and Zealand up there with me because they traveled with me wherever I could. And it was Cocard was with me. Cocard, thank you for coming on that trip. You were huge. We went up to Fairbanks and we hit that step up to that blue flat rail.
I know the spot.
Form hit it one year, and then I wanted to try to do a 450 to it. Mm-hmm. And the 450 came out decent at best, but it was like a 4-day setup. I kept not getting it, but I was pulling the winch back one time after almost slipping out on the kicker, and I was pulling the winch back, and I'm like, I'm done. This isn't for me anymore. This is just too gnarly. It's too intense. Mm-hmm. And I remember I'm like, I'm not going to not finish my real snow part. This is 2018. And so I'm like, I'm fucking committing to this real snow part, and I'm done with real snow for sure forever, and we'll see what happens with snowboarding. And I finished that part, and it was the toughest part I ever did. Dude, most stress I ever had because I wasn't there. Our team wasn't put together. I started not behaving the same way as I had in years past where I kept the team inclusive. I started to pull out more. And it was really, really challenging. Toughest year by far. But that was the point. Fairbanks, Alaska. I'm like, dude, this just isn't for me anymore. And things changed.
Mm-hmm. And so let's talk about the transition out. And you're kind of, at this point, when you're a pro snowboarder, you've been doing it your whole life, your identity is, I'm Dan Brisse, I'm a pro snowboarder. There's a bit of a weird kind of ego identity struggle, right?
Dude, so hard.
How was that period?
So goddamn hard. You know, that's the part I'm the most grateful for, is I have something else now I'm passionate about, and I found something. But for the athletes that, you know, from 11 years old until I'm 30, this is all I thought about. Pure obsession, one thing. No backup plans ever. And all of a sudden you start to see the writing on the wall. Like, you're just not there anymore. You're not putting the right effort in, and you know it's going to come to an end. And you get to this point where you just hope to God you can find something new. You know, and for the guys that find something new, I mean, bomb holes is sick. I mean, whenever it happens for you, not saying it's happening anytime soon for you, Chris, but you've got something else.
We're excited about this. You can say it. Yeah,
this is sick.
Yeah, we're loving it.
We love it.
This is sick.
Same
So
passion
sick.
as when I was 18, like you're
Dude.
talking about,
Yeah.
you know, when I was snowboarding. Yeah,
That's what's
keep
up.
going. But yeah.
That's what's up. So for the dudes who don't find it and they're nobody, those are the dudes that you got to be careful, you know, committing suicide. And what do they turn into? A drinking habit. And their peak is at 33. That was my biggest fear. I'm like, dude, am I going to peak in my life at 33, 34 years old, and the rest of my life is this way? You know, I have so many friends from high school who are still talking about high school football. And I'm like, dude, that's sick. You fucking scored that touchdown. But dude, that was 25 years ago. I don't want to be that dude when I'm 50 that says, yeah, I remember my snowboarding career, X Games gold medalist, 32 years old. The rest of my life has been downhill. Fuck that. That's not happening. So, you know, those fears push you into finding something new. Kind of, they're motivating. And if you let that fear motivate you, you can find something new. And anybody who's transitioned out of a career, I'm telling you, there's something new for you. There's definitely something new you can find and do, and just get excited about something else and go like hell.
So what led you to the real estate path? Break that whole process down to us.
Yep. So I had this tax bill that was shocking. And I started reading financial. Yeah.
How much are we talking?
It was like 130.
Shocking.
Yeah. 130.
More than most people make.
Yep. And I was, again, reading these books. I'm like, there's something I don't know. There's got to be. And I started reading these books on taxes. I hire a great CPA, and he looks at my financial settings. And I'm like, hey, I probably have a 5-year runway here, kind of to run my career out. I need to transition out of my career into something else, and I want freedom. My biggest goal is freedom. You know, like, be able to get up in the morning and do whatever the fuck I want to do, and be stoked. And that's with snowboarding. It was easy, right? You're traveling the world with your homies, getting paid a lot of money. You do whatever you want. It's an easy life, kind of, when you're into it. So he was like, start buying apartments, start using your funds, live below your means. You know, I lived like I was making $60K a year, about, you know, $5,000 a month I would spend. The rest I would shovel into apartments. And I first was reading book after book after book on investing in apartments. And before I ever started raising capital and like building a business, I just did it on my own. I just put my own money in. I bought a duplex. I bought a 9-plex. I bought a 24-unit deal. And as I was buying these deals, I was quickly learning about cash flow and how passive income can pay you money, whether you're working or not working. That was a concept I never fucking heard once between the age of being born till 32, passive income. The most powerful income you can ever make is passive income. So you're buying these apartments, you're getting cash flow, you're getting depreciation. You can do these things called cost segregation studies, and it shows a loss on paper. And when you show the loss on paper and you throw it up against your income as a snowboarder, legally speaking here, the way the tax law is written, it's like the game of Monopoly. You know the rules of Monopoly, you play by the rules. Same with this shit. You play by the rules, your tax bill liability goes down, now you have more to invest. So you have that. You've got appreciation because you're buying an asset that, as the dollar continues to be destroyed, like they're doing, the Federal Reserve is printing trillions of dollars. I'm in a really awesome investment group in Grant Cardone. I don't know if you guys know Grant Cardone.
Yep, I listen to his podcast. That guy, I've listened to him. He's a bulldog. That guy,
fucking bulldog.
He's a bulldog. He's a big investment.
Huge,
guy. Yeah.
Huge. Yeah, and he was talking to us and just basically said, in the last 2 years, 40% of all currency in the history of the world was created in the last 2 years. You got that much currency coming into the world, and you got a lot of people not working, you're going to have inflation taken off, and we're seeing it. I mean, I'm seeing it. You know, it's apparent. And if you're not on the side of inflation, you're in a scary spot right now. And I don't want to go into too much detail because it can be kind of complicated, but look into it, read up on that, and try to understand what's going on, big picture. Because if you're not on the side of inflation, it's likely your cash that you're saving is going to become worth less and less and less just because there's more of it. Does that make sense? You've got dollars that are chasing the same amount of goods.
Yep,
You've got
makes
way more
sense.
dollars chasing the same amount of bananas. Bananas go up if bananas are needed, right? So what happens is people save their cash and they're in 401ks and IRAs and these fixed investments, and they're slowly losing value.
Everything becomes a bit more of a commodity.
And they're offering no interest right now on money that's stacked up.
Yeah. So I think education was the biggest thing right out of the gate. And now we built a extensive team on investing, and we're way further along than what I was. But in the beginning, it was strictly a tax payment and trying to find a way to create passive income after learning about what it was.
So explain exactly, kind of as an investment group, what you guys do. You guys all pool your money together.
Yeah, correct. We basically 24/7 right now. My business partner and I, his name is Mike Roeder. We started Granite Towers Equity Group, and Granite Towers is a company that looks for apartment assets. And when we find an asset, we bring it to our investors and we show them the opportunity that we found, that we believe, and how we can add value to the apartment, and we all buy it together. So we just put a property under contract last week, $15.2 million contract. We need to raise $4 million. It's in Nashville, Tennessee. And when we have the opportunity, capital flushes these deals. Because there's a lot of people in the world that have a lot of cash that don't know what to do with it. They're and I can speak to anybody right now. If you don't have a lot of cash, there's ways to start to save a little bit. 25K chunks. You start with 25K chunks. I don't care who you are in the world right now. You can save 25 grand. And if you start with a 25 grand chunk and you start to get educated, you can start to invest in these deals, and you can start to we preserve capital. We take care of it and then pay you more. And that's really the name of the game, is find a great asset in a great location, show it to the investors, and whoever wants to invest, fucking let's go together. My money's always in the deals. Every time I'm in the deals, 6 figures or more, every deal. And in the beginning it was a little less, but now I care as much as the next investor.
Yeah, when you got your own skin in the game.
Yeah.
That's genius. Now, so if we're going to just break this down for some digestible, actionable advice for our listeners, or let's just take the kids our age that they're listening to this, they like snowboarding, they don't know, but they don't know what to do with whatever money they have. What would you say, like if you could bullet point 3 things of what to do that's actionable advice, what would you say that you would do if you say, let's just say you had, I put away 5 grand or 10 grand or something small. There's not that that's a small amount of money, but just something to start with.
Yes, this is great. I hope I can add value here. Number 1, I would just continue to live below your means. You don't need to spend everything you're making. Don't act like you're a baller when you're not, right? Living off cash you're making as income, it's just step 1. So try to get that into your mind. Just let that bumble around. Let that seed, grow. And once you start to put cash away every month, your confidence will go up, and start reading books on education. Rich Dad, Poor Dad is a great book to start of the basics. Read it again. I read it every couple years. The ABCs of apartment investing, or ABCs of real estate. If you want to learn about real estate, incredible book of basics. Just start to develop some education on what to do. And if anyone wants more information, I can give you more information on starting your education. And then after you have some cash stacking and your education is going up, either you got 2 choices. 1, you can go and find investments and take control of it, or you can find and work with people like us. And this isn't a sales pitch in any way, shape, or form, but I'm telling you right now, if I did it again, I would work with somebody who was a pro. We got trained by a guy out of Dallas, Fort Worth, who's been doing this for 30 years. That's all he does, apartment investing, value add. And when you go through and you learn what he does exactly and how he's had success for the last 30 years, it's a very simple recipe. But if you don't know the recipe and you don't know the critical things to look at, it's very dangerous. So, you can have massive success, and you can have massive failure. You have billionaires in real estate, and you have people who are broke. And it's the knowledge. That's the difference. People either know stuff and they truly know it, or they're bullshitters selling you on something that isn't a good deal. So those are the steps I'd take is just take a check in reality of how much you're making, and can you find a way to live a little bit below your means and get educated, and then reach out and find somebody who's can make your capital multiply.
Sidebar on a small way to start getting like an investment going. Random thing I use, Acorns. I thought it basically rounds up. Something it puts away $20 a week, and then it rounds up everything to the nearest dollar.
Yeah, everything you buy, right?
Yeah. So, and I started doing
It's
that.
an app.
I want to say I haven't looked at it in a while, but I think I started doing it 3 years ago. I don't even notice it because it's just there, and I'm up to 10 grand.
Dude.
And it's like
Really?
that's a good way. Yeah, totally. That's a good way to start Like I don't even, because
You
it's
don't
such
notice
small
it.
increments, but over time, and
You go to 7-Eleven, you spend $7.50. It takes 50 cents.
Yes, exactly.
And every time you use your card, the app you link all your cards to it.
Just one of my cards. It's just one card. Yeah, and my debit card. So that's
3 years, 10.
I don't know if it might be 4 now. It might be it's something like that.
Could you have
3 and
done
a
me
half.
a favor and told me 3 years ago? where were you at?
Yeah, hindsight is always 2020.
Yeah, it really is. I'm starting this today.
Yeah, so to like. I mean, that's a point, but it's good to set people up with things like that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
and my goal is not to be like this dude that has big homes and cars. It's freedom,
Yeah.
It's to be able to just to have more choice.
Yep.
And we got people like my parents investing with us, my brother, like people who I fucking really care about. They're not just random people. I'm like, oh, you got money? Cool, let's roll.
Yep.
It's
So people can contact you and get in on these investments?
Yeah. Well, you can go to, GraniteTowersEquityGroup.com, contact us, and you're reaching either Mike or I.
So how does the return on investment work? Let's say you gave somebody 25 grand, just out of curiosity.
Well, let's go with 100 grand because it's easier math. If you throw 100 grand in our deal, we'll generally project we're going to pay you 75 to 100,000 on top of your initial investment back in 5 years.
Okay.
So if you throw 100 grand in, we project we're going to pay you 175 to 200K back in a 5-year period. Ideally, we crush that. Ideally, we smoke that. But we like to project conservatively, because if you project too high and then you underperform, your investors are pissed.
Yes.
Right? And that's how I am. So that's the way it rolls.
Wow.
Yeah, and you're getting cash flow along the way. These apartments, if you underwrite them correctly, they'll pay you quarterly.
Yeah. It's a lot like investing in the bomb hole. Same thing. I think we have a similar.
We have a similar return.
We usually. Thank you to our Patreon members. Yeah. You get a return of banter, is what you get.
No, they give you a
get a
serious
service.
ROI
Yeah.
on banter.
Yeah, it's a good time. We realize we're doing.
Dan,
real
I'm
estate.
loving this though, man.
Yeah, good.
I might be selling my crib, dog. I'm gonna be hollering at you and putting a little something over your way, dog. GraniteTowers.com.
It's funny you say that, because when I first figured this shit out, I sold my house. Because a house, unfortunately, is a liability. And I'm not saying you shouldn't own a home. If you want to own a home, everybody, cool.
It's been
go
great
for it.
for me here in Salt Lake. I'll tell you
and
what.
you might be getting massive appreciation.
Yeah.
So totally, if you got a home, actually right now with the way inflation's going, owning a home and having a 30-year fixed mortgage is incredible.
Yeah.
Because
the rates are very low.
rates are low, and inflation's going to continue to make it easier and easier to pay your debt off. So I'm not saying that's not a good investment, but I did sell my home, and I took all my equity and I moved it into assets.
And so did you rent?
Yep.
Yeah. Wow.
Yep. Yeah, I was committed. You come back to you see a way out, and luckily I didn't blow a lot of my cash when I was a snowboarder.
Yeah.
And I had a bunch ready to go, but you see the opportunity. You're like, dude, I can take 200K out of a home and shove it into a real estate deal, and if I can turn that 200 to 400 in 5 years, and 400 to 800 in 5 years, 800 to 1.6, you start to get excited.
Yeah, because shit.
Question.
Wow, loving it.
Do you enjoy what you did on a snowboard? Do you enjoy when you were landing your peak tricks that you've ever done, the gratification of conquering your fears and stepping over, these mental boundaries that maybe you didn't think were possible? I think that's what happens in real snow, is you do things that you kind of find your ceiling is higher than you think, right? And that pushing yourself to these extreme degrees in snowboarding on jumps and rails and in the streets. Now, what do you find more satisfaction from? Doing these huge deals that you're doing with your real estate company, or doing a gigantic, mind-blowing trick you didn't think you could do?
Yeah, with snowboarding, there was much more popping of excitement and pleasure, trick after trick, right? Spot after spot. Real estate moves very slowly, but it's more rewarding because it lasts longer. So, for example, all the snowboarding highs, you just land and you're hyped, right? And you're on cloud 9 for a day, maybe a day and a half.
We call that clip high.
Clip high, baby.
You get a clip high, you're like on drugs, basically.
The best drug ever. Yep. But with real estate, we bought a deal in 2019 in Cleburne, Texas. We bought it for $6.75 million. We just put it under contract for sale for $12.4 million. So we're giving our investors a 200% return about in a 2-year period. And that feeling is extremely rewarding and exciting in a totally different way. You've got a lot of people, and a lot of people I know well in that deal, that I'm going to fucking give a lot of cash back.
Yep.
And enough chunks where they're like, dude, I can really do something with this.
That's a good point, because snowboarding, really, it's about me, especially as a pro. Look at me. Check out me. Watch my video part. Hey, stand in the cold, buds, and shoot me while I battle this cold-ass rail, or, this long rail, and it takes me 300
Negative
tries.
20 out.
Right? And then your video part comes out. It's just you. It's a very self-centered sport. And that's really a great perspective about real estate, about how you're kind of adding value to people's lives. You're improving their life, and 100%. You can be breaking, chains of people that have had bad generational wealth. A lot of, I've just read this book, Outliers, and it's very interesting. It's really a lot of where we come from comes through our cultural roots, and there's a lot of things that are advantages we've had from where we're from, our income, our grandparents' income, and they all play a factor in who we are. And so it's really cool if you can take somebody that their parents didn't go to college and they come from not very much money and maybe they're an immigrant family, and then you can take them and you can give them some generational wealth for the next generation. That's a huge,
powerful.
That's huge. Yeah, it's
such
super
a rewarding,
powerful.
Such a rewarding feeling. And not only are you improving your lives of your investors, you're ideally improving the lives of these tenants, because we're always coming in with multi-million-dollar upgrades for the apartments, and we're improving the parking lots, the siding, the windows, the security, playgrounds. We come in and we upgrade this stuff, and ideally give our tenants a nicer place to live, a safer place to live. So it's a win on all ends. It really is. And there are some people that are upset when you up their rent, but that's part of life. I think is the market's the market, and you got to roll with the punches, all of us.
Okay, love this real estate talk. We're going to go back to some snowboard nerd stuff. I know you've been a little bit out of touch, but we're going to play a fan favorite here. Name that video part. Confidence level 0 through 10, Dan.
3, 1, 2, 2.
3, 1, 2.
2.
Okay, here we go. It's the Sword. Close. He used that band. Every Sword song is like a Pat Moore song. I think that's a Sword. I'm not sure.
I just went with my first thought. Hold on. Let me think one more time.
You want it again?
Yeah.
You need a hint?
Yeah.
He's a teammate of yours.
Oh, God. That's even worse now.
And it is in a team movie of yours. So this is bad for...
You
want to...
Craven?
Yes, it is!
Fuck yeah, Craven. You're my boy, dude.
Yep.
Hope you're good, dude.
Nice work.
This is a lot like... this is kind of like your bomb... This is like a real snow medal, but it's actually almost worth more, I think.
Hell yeah.
So
That's
you got
legit.
a bomb hole cooler. It's filled with all bomb hole merch. You got a t-shirt, hoodies, mugs, all kinds of good stuff, which is available at bombhole.com.
Thank you.
I don't know. We're not going to say you won that. It's more of a participation award, even though you kind of got it with a little hint.
Yeah. Damn.
You got there.
I definitely recognize the song. I should have known.
I would have said the same. Any Sword song, you basically just kind of think Pat Moore. Okay, then part 2. This is for our listeners at this point. You guys know the drill. If you know what video this is from, comment on Dan's photo on Instagram when this comes out. At the bomb hole on Instagram. Here we go. Okay, thank you guys for playing.
That's a tough one. Jeez.
We're trying to hit some different generations, we'll say.
True.
That's one of the newer ones. So another thing we're going to do, we're going back to back. We're going to get into one more fun part of the show, which is...
Welcome to the Pub Beer Crapshoot.
So we're doing the Pub Beer Crapshoot, which is presented by Pub Beer. If you're looking to crush some cold ones, crush some can, maybe get hammered on a Friday night.
Yeah, or if you're camping, you want to sit around a campfire, crush some cans with the boys or girls.
Or as you like to say, swirl some brews.
Swill some brews.
Swill some Is it swill or swill? Swill, okay. Swill some brews. Get yourself some Pub Beer. They support the podcast. If you're at a 7-Eleven, you're looking at the beers, might as well get the one that supports the podcast.
And hashtag cheap fun beer, right?
It is fun from what I hear. I heard it's extremely fun.
It's a great time.
It's extremely cheap, and they support us. You should support them. So the Pub Beer Crapshoot, how it works is you roll dice and you land on one of the 2 through 12, and it's a number of questions. Like 7, for example, is who is one of your favorite people to party with? Now, go ahead and roll those dice, and we will see what you get.
10.
10. The question, perfect 10. What's the biggest prize check you've ever won? Yes.
Me.
I haven't won that many prize checks.
Yeah. Biggest prize check was X Games Real Snow year 1, $50K.
Woo!
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
And nowadays, they don't pay nearly as much, so good for you.
Thank you.
One thing I'm curious to get your take on here is, early in your career, you wore helmets. You wore a helmet, I should say. Now, I noticed you eventually took it off. And now that you have a son and he's getting into, I'm sure you guys go up to the mountain occasionally and things like that. Do you think, are you going to push that on him? What's your take on all that stuff?
Yeah. In the beginning of my career, my parents suggested it and I was interested and I did it, right? And as I got into my career, Blue never told me to take it off. He just said you're easier to market. And at that time, it was 100% my decision and I was committed to my career and making it work. It's like, do you want it to work or not? And how far do you want it to go? So, I made the decision to not run it. And, luckily I never had a head injury that, took me out of the game. But now with my son, for sure for now, 100%. And if he ever got that far into snowboarding, we'll see what the market's like, see how bad he wants it, see what he's willing to do, see what his desire level's like, And if he's got a burning desire and that's still the way things are, then, it's his decision. I'm going to say wear it. At this point, it's like, looking back, I mean, I'm glad I did it, but looking back, I would never not wear one now, or if I'm actually like trying to ride seriously. I mean, if I just cruise the mountain and I'm just riding park, I still don't wear one just because I've gotten used to never wearing it.
Mm-hmm.
But, I can see it both ways. I haven't thought about it too much.
Yeah. Beautiful. I think we should maybe get into another favorite of the show, hot takes.
Hot takes.
So one question we always ask in hot takes is the MJ and or GOAT of snowboarding, kind of the greatest of all time, male and female. Who do you got and why?
Might be JP Walker. He's just like, when we were young, he was the man in the streets. He was the dude. And in the backcountry, he had some of the sickest stuff. He was just that well-rounded rider. And I just got a lot of respect for a lot of those dudes, but for some reason he stood out to me as just being a little bit that dude.
Great answer. Who you got for a woman?
Yeah, I would say for greatest of all time women, I'm leaning towards Jamie Anderson, just with her consistency with contests and just having a really long career and just being a standout in my mind. Either that or Kamira does come into my mind.
Yeah, Jess. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and she's unique and she's been a badass. She's won Rider of the Year several years in a row, voted on by Trans World Magazine, Snowboarder Magazine. So yeah.
Beautiful. Another one they like to ask is when you're in the lift line, a lot of times you'll see a guy do a beaver slap, pick your board up, whack it on the ground to get all the snow off. What are your thoughts on the beaver slap? Do you have a take on it?
I wish I had a sweet answer, but not really. I don't really notice it or if it.
So he's kind of answering no comment. We'll put that under. Okay, and then if you had an actor play your role in life, who would it be?
We were discussing this earlier. I'd say Brad Pitt.
Wow,
yeah,
it's a first. I haven't even got that.
It is
one.
a first.
Yeah, he moved out from the Midwest with the dream and good looking dude, right? I mean, hey, let's head that way. I guess I don't know.
You got an answer, Buds? You have a take
for Dan?
Yeah.
There was this actor that looked a lot like him, but I can't put it together.
Okay. I think we should maybe hit a couple more Patreons, and then we should wrap this thing up and put a bow on it. It's been beautiful.
So, we got another Patreon for you, and this is from Powder Pirate. What's the longest it's taken you to get a single clip between build time, number of tries, getting kicked out?
Yeah, I'd say longest setup time and from beginning to end was probably 3, 4, 5. Actually, no, the pipe.
Pipe was like a 7-day.
Yeah, pipe was 7 day. We built it, set it up, took like 3 days of setup, had 4 days of weather, and then finally got it.
Yeah, it was like a 7-day scenario there.
Yeah.
I went on the trip. That's all I shot for 7 days.
Okay,
but it was damn fun trip.
What else? One thing I want to talk about before we wrap it up is your relationship with snowboarding. It doesn't seem like you go all the time. Where are you at Do you still love snowboarding?
Yes, I still love snowboarding very, very much. It just, the focus has changed for me. You know, I had this massive burning desire to be the snowboarder, and I went through this massive run up and kind of peaked. And then I had this kind of like this 5-year downtrend. And after peaking, snowboarding became less fun simply because I rode at a higher level and I never have been back at that level. So riding now with my friends or my kids, my boys, I love it. But like trying to go out and ride and like progress, it's just not there anymore. You know, and unless you're progressing, snowboarding's not fun. And that's why dirt biking is so fun right now for me. You can go out and progress every fucking day and you get an adrenaline hit really easily, you know? So I still love it. I'm just more of a family guy and just, you know, with my boys. My boys are my center of my life and my focus. And, you know, I'm grateful for marrying such an amazing woman. My wife is just so damn pure. She's such an amazing woman. I've never heard her say the F word. Not once. She doesn't drink beer. She's never had a beer.
Give her a big old air horn.
Wow. Yeah. And I've had a lot of challenges from the transition out into my next career, and she's been just rock solid with just clarity on how to handle some of the challenges that came up.
That's killer.
Beautiful.
Well, before we wrap this thing up, if you have any thank yous you want to throw out?
Yeah. Thank you to Melissa and Zealand and Leif, my family. And then I'd go back to the beginning, you know, Clocker, Tinas, Pettit, freaking Blue Montgomery for the start of the career, really blowing it up. And then all my brands I rode for, dude. I just had such a remarkable career and such good brand support other than the dye situation. But everybody else was just so damn good to me, and just grateful for it.
Well, thank you so much for flying out here, coming on our show, chatting with us. I feel like I learned so much from this. I'm psyched, and we wish you so much success in your career. It seems like you're already there, and we appreciate you. We appreciate you guys for listening. We appreciate you guys for watching each and every week. Again, we have actually the crazy gap we talked about. We have signed prints available of Dan at bombhole.com. One last thing. And to our Patreon members and our sponsors, thank you guys so much. We will see you next week. We are over and out from the Bomb Hole.